If you're an aspiring homeowner, it's no secret that home prices are high right now, and you've likely had this conversation multiple times. You or someone you know is looking to get a home, but you can't pull the trigger. If you or your friend can't even afford the home, it still seems far too expensive. Knowing just how much these homes were going for and how low interest rates were just a few years ago, it was the buyer's dream, right? But as of now, home prices remain near historic highs, and most Americans are just afraid to buy or sell. According to the National Association of Realtors, existing home sales reached a 28-year low in 2023, fueled by unaffordability, low inventory, and high interest rates. Even into 2024, home prices are showing little signs of coming down, and the increased affordability we're all looking for hasn't returned to most markets. If you're like most Americans, you've been sitting on the sidelines for a while now, waiting for this turn in the markets that reflects our new mortgage rates. And it's still left to be seen if we're gonna get that turn. According to experts, there's a few reasons why. Home demand and prices began to skyrocket in 2020, contributing to a growing inflation problem. As the Fed was combating this issue with higher interest rates, we didn't end up seeing the decrease in prices everyone was hoping for. Most experts agree that this is because of the low inventory issue. While many Americans are waiting it out to buy, they are also waiting it out to sell, attempting to keep their very low interest rates and favorable monthly home costs. The question for these homeowners becomes, if you're currently sitting at a home near record high prices and record low interest rates, then why would you sell? You'll find that your next mortgage will be far more expensive than the one you're dealing with today. For those of us sitting on the sidelines, you may have done your math and realized that it's much cheaper to rent than buy in this market. Frankly, this environment has allowed the rental market to soften while purchasing continues to tighten. At this point, you may be thinking the same thing. Waiting to buy a home may be just as risky of a proposition as buying right now. If I can afford it, maybe it does make sense to pull the trigger at this point. While prices are telling us to wait it out and rent to save cash, for many prospective buyers, getting a home is about much more than getting the biggest bang for your buck. It's about having a place to raise your family, having the security of ownership, a place that no landlord can force you to move out or unfairly raise your rents. If this is you, waiting for a potential decline in prices may not be the best option. As a matter of fact, this decline is nowhere close to guaranteed. Historically, home prices have just gone up, and this current dip in median home prices is one of the largest ever according to research by the U.S. Census Bureau and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The risk of home prices getting further and further away from you is very real as well. Look at the last housing market boom, for example. Remember the conversation then? The belief that housing prices had to come back down and were way too expensive even 2 years ago. This left people waiting until they were eventually priced out of the market. But luckily, you're here because in this episode of Money Makes Sense, let's explore. What should you actually be considering before buying a home in this current market? Following these rules can make sure that you're in a good financial position when getting ready to make your decision. The number one question when it comes to any purchase is, can I afford it? Home prices are high right now, but if the home you're looking for makes sense for your life goals, then the purchase could be reasonable. A general rule of thumb that you may have heard about is that around 28% of your gross income should go to your mortgage. But there are other modern rules that tend to be more stringent with the increase in lifestyle costs. For example, our friends at the Money Guys recommend 25% of your gross income, while Dave Ramsey recommends you only spend 25% of your net income or take-home pay. In general, we're okay with whatever you choose to do as long as it fits in your 50-30-20. That's 50% going to your needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings. With the home fitting in your needs category, you can choose the 28% rule as long as your other necessary expenses remain low. When considering if your home purchase fits in your 50-30-20, and the rule of thumb you choose, be sure to consider HOA fees, home repairs, and other costs that come with the home purchase outside of the mortgage. This will all increase your needs expenditures after you take on the home. One of the simplest ways to make the home more affordable is to put down a larger down payment. Ideally 20% down on the home at a minimum. Not only can putting down 20% reduce the cost of the mortgage, but it can also leave you free from mortgage insurance. Don't let this delay your home purchase journey too much though. Remember that home prices generally go up over time, so if you can afford the home now with a lower down payment, maybe give yourself a few months to a year to save up a bit more cash before pulling the trigger. After we handle affordability, we still want to be smart. We need to make sure that we can recoup the cost of purchasing the home. Costs include mortgage interests, real estate agent fees, and closing costs. In the past, the general rule of thumb has been that you must keep the home at least 5 years to recoup these costs. But this also assumes the general truth. and that would apply in most markets in the past 100 years, but may be risky in this particular moment in time. The assumption is that real estate prices generally go up, but we need to take into account the uncertain market that we're living in. Although home prices will likely go up in the long term, we could start seeing short-term decreases depending on who wins the current standoff, the buyers or the sellers. While most markets are stagnant, there are some markets that are declining significantly and that may decline even more. These could also spread to the stagnant markets as well, but we don't really know. When deciding to purchase a home, we need to take this into account and be sure that we can stay in a home long enough to weather the storm. Recommendations vary, but many experts are now recommending that you stay in your home for 7 to 10 years or more at this point. That's a long time when considering human life, and no one can really say for sure if they're able to meet that requirement. But be sure to ask yourself how likely you are to be able to put down some roots. Think about where you are in life now and where you could be in 10 years. Will you have any kids? If so, how are the schools in that area? Is this a city you could live in for the next decade? Or will your job put you on the road in a short few years? Life happens, but make sure you don't have any clear blockages that would force you out of the house sooner than you'd like. Next, you should optimize your interest rate. A small reduction in your interest rate could be enough to put your home in that comfortable 25 to 28% of gross income range. Using a very basic calculation on Bankrate's mortgage calculator, a $475,000 mortgage on a 30-year fixed-rate loan will run you about $4,001 a month at a 7% interest rate. Drop that to 6% and you're looking at a payment of $3,688 a month. That ends up being a few $100s a month, but nearly $4,000 a year in savings. Start by shopping around for rates and make sure that you're getting a competitive rate from a lender you trust. Pay attention to your credit score. If it's low, try to do some repair by paying off debt and keeping your usage low. Also avoid opening any new credit that can damage your score before you close on the home. Putting down more on your home as well can also get a more favorable interest rate. So waiting a few months until you have some more cash could be in your best interest. Note that interest rates are coming down and have been coming down in recent months. The Federal Reserve has also announced the possibility of rate cuts in this coming year, which means buying near the end of 2024 or beginning of 2025 may get you better prices. Fannie Mae has forecasted that the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage could hit 5.6% by the end of 2025, which is about a 1.5% decline at the time of making this video. Now, the end of 2025 is a long way away, but don't think you have to wait for this. If you can afford the home right now, you can always refinance later. Refinancing does come with its own set of closing costs, but overall, you'll get the majority of benefits of those who purchase at lower interest rates. Real estate in general is very market dependent, and for many of you, this information may not apply. While home prices remain elevated in most of the country, some markets are already beginning to see significant declines and could see more in the coming year. Do your research and gauge how real estate looks in your city, state, and region. If your market has seen a decline, then you may have a better case for buying now or be able to expect greater declines in the future. If you have to wait, there aren't many indicators saying that you must buy now, unlike 2020 and 2021, where home prices were seemingly going up by the day. Take your time and make sure you're making the best decision that you can make. This goes for home inventory as well. Check your specific area and see if inventories have risen. A simple Google search of home prices in your city can show you the trends in your specific area. And if you don't fall into these recommendations, don't worry. This is just a moment in time and history repeats itself. Home affordability will return in one way or another. By renting, you might be able to save yourself some more money right now and prepare yourself for that better market. Check out the resources in the description below, as they are what I use or would use in specific situations, including the best budgeting program in the history of the internet.